Today is the day. We got XRP, incredible news. SEC basically finally canceled or terminated that case against them. We got some great news coming up in the coming weeks, coming months, and probably setting up the future of Cardano. We got a great guest coming on today here in just a moment. We got to cover a couple stories first, but we also have the FOMC meeting today. Expect some volatility. We're going to be talking about some levels on Bitcoin, what's going on with the crypto market, and what we can expect. So everybody strap into your boots. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding the bell. We're about to dive into this. I'm getting this retweeted over on Twitter. I cannot get rid of calling it Twitter. It is X and it is Twitter to me. But that being said, everybody, let's get into it. Let's go. Another day of just awesome news coming in, bullish setups for this market. And it feels so actually perplexing as to why we can have this nonstop rolling news feed of just bullish architecture for the future. And yet the market is just feeling so, it feels like we're like months into a bear market. We've talked about that on this channel, looking at the basically top 100 on CoinMarketCap, the last 90-day period, almost the large majority of them, they're 70% down, 60% down, 50%, 40% down. A lot of bleeding in the altcoins, but we got that jolt today in the XRP news. And looking at the market right here, nothing yet has really changed. We're starting a bit of a breakout. It's not fully confirmed yet. Starting a little bit of a breakout on this falling channel that we have right here. But this is, I think, even us here on the channel, we try to bring it out, look at more of the macro, also zoom in here on the 4-hour. Some of us go full degen looking at the 15-minute. And yeah, we got a bull flag on the 15-minute, but this is also in a day where we're expecting a lot of volatility. And I want to go through a couple of those stories, then we're going to dive in. We got Crypto Crow waiting in the wings, which we're going to be throwing to here in just a moment. But looking at what's going on right here, XRP, whether you like XRP or not, it's not really relevant if you like it or not. This is positive for the market. You have to realize this seismic shift that we've seen in the U.S. administration since the inauguration on January 20th. This is a win for all of crypto. This signal is clear, empowering regulators versus the constrictive ecosystem or environment that the crypto markets have been facing, especially here in the US, essentially the liquidity capital of the world in crypto. This is seismic in terms of what is to come. And we've seen obviously positive comments from the SEC. We've seen the U.S. Strategic Bitcoin Reserve executive orders, the discussion about the crypto stockpile, and also different commentary around XRP, Solana, Cardano, as to how different ways they can be utilized and integrated into systems here in the government. But we're people. Who gives a shit about the government, right? That's half the reason why I got into crypto, to be outside of the system. Well, the truth is here, this is starting to be integrated into anything that needs to improve their technology. And let's be honest, the government is far behind where they should be on a technology basis. And this is infrastructure for the future. So although we can still participate in this on an independent, personal, sovereign nature away from government, they're also going to be utilizing this technology because it is so good. So this is great to see some of these things come out. Today, FOMC meeting. You can expect one of two things today. And I know some of you get frustrated about this could go up, could go down. Well, if you notice this, look back just a little bit before that. I think we're going to get a bit of both. I think today is going to be another one of those double trap days where we get price action moving up, trapping people getting so excited long, only to reverse, go back down, trapping people short, and then ultimately having the resolution of what direction this market is going to find some follow through. Now, there are huge bullish tailwinds on the macro of what's happening in the crypto ecosystem. But in the near term, there's still a lot of questions about certainty in this market. That's why when you come over here and you look at the Bitcoin and S&P 500 charts, we're seeing uncertainty in markets. And Bitcoin, although it shouldn't be trading like a tech stock, risk on, risk off narratives, I think Bitcoin is specifically a risk regardless narrative. It's more risky, in my opinion, to not be stacking into Bitcoin than it is to wondering where it's going to go in the next 2 days, 3 days. Now, that's obviously going to be different if you're basically a day or a scalp or swing trader versus a longer term player storing your assets into the future. But considering everybody's so worried about where it's going to go in the very near term, We're seeing uncertainty right now with the tariff trade war going on, all the debt that we have to refinance in the next 7 months, all these things. We have the FOMC meeting today, but we have that April 2nd date. I don't want to call it a deadline, but a bit of a date in terms of the decisions, getting those tariffs implemented. Maybe there's going to be people coming to the negotiation table between now and then. Maybe some of those tariffs aren't going to happen. There's uncertainty around this. Thus, we're seeing a little bit of a risk-off environment in the markets. However, we're also seeing a massive shift in the global liquidity, which we've been talking about a lot in the last 6 months or so, seeing the global liquidity ticking up as it is here. The M2 is actually already broken above this previous high, I believe. But the problem is this is not a direct correlation. As the second this goes up, the market goes up. There's about a 60 to 80 day lag in this. So if this is any indication, especially if this does not reject, which we don't expect it will, AKA if it rejects, that means stopping new liquidity coming into markets, basically money printing, quantitative easing. And it's not just the US, it's China, which has already put out essentially news that they're going to be stimulating their consumers so they can get money back into the markets. We're seeing also rate cuts over there in Europe. We're seeing it across the board. And remember, we have $7 trillion of debt that we need to refinance. And we also need to be making payments on. Unfortunately, fiat systems are just that situated sort of asset that no matter what, the persistent case with fiat systems is that they are going to continue to print. And Bitcoin is the ultimate capture mechanism of that. Now, continuing on here, so I can get over to our main man here in a second, just pointing out a little bit of hopium from our boy Matthew Hyland. He pointed out here that the last 3 times the term market crash spiked above 50 on the Google Trends was March 20 and June 22nd, June 2022 and August 2024. All 3 times were major bottoms for the total 2. That is everything in the crypto market minus Bitcoin. So you're looking at everything, basically all the alts in the market, including stablecoins as well. But essentially this is marked when everybody's worried about the crash. That tends to be when it reverses. So with that being said, I'm going to throw it to our guest, our illustrious co-host on today's show, Mr. Crypto Crow. I do know that we're having a little bit of issues that might pop up with Cameron. And if that is the case, then we're going to get this incredible image of him staring us down into bullish town right here. So we'll see if we can keep, yeah, it looks like his camera dropped, but you are there, Mr. Jason Appleton. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. I think I've discovered it's a memory leak. I might have an idea how to fix it, but I won't be able to do it right now. I've been working on this for since I had Charles on a couple of weeks ago.
It's all good, my friend. I'm happy to have you here. I was nice to have met you. I think it was at the Bitcoin conference 2 years ago. And much like DZ's story, I was like, "Who's that guy standing on a table?" I walk over. It's like, no, he's just he's a man of power right here. But you've been in these markets for years. We were talking pre-show a little bit. Are we finally at that stage where you think that crypto easy mode is over?
I mean, I think it depends on how you want to look at it, right? Like, I think we're definitely going to continue moving up. I just don't think it's going to be these parabolic rises and falls that we're used to seeing, that we're predicting on this 4-year cycle. I honestly think that we're on track still. A lot of people like to challenge the idea that we're still on track for a 4-year cycle. Many want to say we're in a bear market now. I don't buy any of that. Like, we're still on track. If we were to peak according to the actual 4-year cycle, we shouldn't be peaking until around October anyway. I just don't necessarily think that we're going to get the same kind of peak and dramatic collapse that we're used to, because there's too much at stake now. I don't really believe, because we could say, oh, well, the institutions are in now, they're going to want to get in cheaper. But a lot of these institutions have vehicles that are only in demand when the public wants them. So if the market crashes, then everything that they've done to basically accumulate as much of this limited resource as they can basically goes out the window. So they're not going to, I don't really think they're going to let that fall. And I think they were aware of a lot of this starting back in 2017. And I think that's why the CME futures launched. That's why they say we tamed Bitcoin, right? That was all just part of the cycle. And a lot of that was just BS. but I think they were on that mission to kind of tame the asset. And in 2021, we got a glimpse of what that looks like in a much broader sense, which is how, you know, if you can match that basically that whole cycle against the NASDAQ of 2007 and it matches identically. That's the institutions at play, manipulating things and basically working their systems in, getting their feet in the door. And I really do think that this market cycle is going to be kind of a culmination of all of that as we head into 2030. So, you know, that's really what I see happening. And there's so many different reasons that I believe that. I just don't think we're going to, I mean, we might have a little bit of a fake out dip. And I honestly believe it'll look very much like the period we're in right now. So when the market does peak and it starts to come back down, I think we're going to have basically what the recent all-time high and where we're at now looks like. And I think it's going to be a big fake out for people. And I think it's just going to continue moving up from there. And it may continue on until 2030.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Even another analyst that I follow a lot, Checkmatey, did a thread on that yesterday on his X, talking about this whole 4-year cycle narrative where you get these long, persistent uptrends, and we forget because we zoom out. We look back at 2017, it just looks like a parabola. But you were there, I was there. In it was not as easy as it seemed. It was 30 to 40% pullbacks every couple of weeks. And you really had to hang on to your butt if you were going to get anywhere near the top to take profits. Otherwise, you're just holding all the way through into the next
I'll say
cycle,
this.
which was probably the smarter move.
I actually think it was easier then. It was easier then for a lot of us that were just getting into it and didn't know any better, because to us, those 40% drops didn't mean anything because it had just risen like 10 times that before the drop. So it, for me personally, it just felt like a normal course, right? Over 6 months, those, none of that phased me. But the difference now is we have so many people in the space with their own opinions. Nobody had an opinion in 2017 that was telling everybody, oh, well, this is it. This is a bear market every time the market dropped 40%. We didn't really have much of that. And it wasn't until the market peaked, we started seeing the real OGs, who, like the founder of Litecoin and, like the real OGs in the space started selling their assets. And we were all looking at them like they were demons. We were like, what the hell are you doing? You're trying to shit on the market. You're trying to take it down, right?
Oh, like you're talking about like when Vitalik sold like he sold it like 4,500 and everybody thought he was out of his mind. And then the market dropped and people would argue it dropped because he sold. No, they're also looking at deeper metrics than us just wanting it to go up.
Right. Exactly. So now we have all these people with their varied opinions about, oh, we're going up, we're going down. Everybody's got something to say. And it's confusing for people. And when they're checking videos, YouTube, they're checking all of the influencers every single day, waiting for a clear-cut answer as to what to expect. Are they going to be able to live again? Everything's more expensive. Everything is more dire. So it's almost like we all have this built-in anxiety in this cycle in particular that is just racking everyone and making everyone crazy to a certain extent. I just think everything is basically right on par with what's being laid out in front of us and how we're getting there. I just think we've lost a lot of patience and too many people know too much who actually don't know very much.
I completely agree. I kind of discussed that, the January 20th top that we had, people go, why would we sell off if we have the most bullish president and crypto administration, whether you like him politically or not? It's like there's a seismic shift in the supportive or positive tone that's coming out of this administration regarding crypto than before. Why would it sell off? And I always point to, well, let's talk about the ETF run up and then the subsequent 13-day sell off we had here, and that people, it's a persistent buy the rumor, sell the news event. And the only way I can explain that with the top we had on January 20th is the expectation that people had on that day. We're going to get a strategic Bitcoin reserve. We're going to get the buying done. And that's just not how things work out. So now you have some de-risking. The market's getting, institutions bringing that boat back. And I think more than anything, people are frustrated in the altcoin market because it just hasn't performed. What do you make of that? Do we have a different sort of trajectory for altcoins this cycle? Is it no more all up during that alt
I
season?
think
Is it
we're
going
in
to
a
be
process
fractured?
where we're washing clothes, man. Like I think that we're in a process right now where, you know, listen, influencers are called influencers because we put a lot of time and energy into understanding more about what's going on than the general public. And so they watch us to try and get insight as to what's happening. You've got good influencers that really want to benefit everyone. And then you have the sellouts who are just going to say whatever they're paid to say, just kind of like television news pundits, right? And I think that that is playing a role. And I think the same way we're having this transition out of like, you know, traditional media where we just don't trust them anymore. And we're starting to go to podcasts and people with independent voices that aren't being paid to say one thing or another. That's where we're resorting. Now, the same thing is kind of happening in crypto, where a lot of people are starting to get wise to, oh, wait, this coin, I've read all of this stuff that's factual, but this guy over here with 2 million followers is telling me this. I don't know how much I buy into that. And so we're washing clothes. We're getting rid of a lot of the trash. The cream is rising to the top. The best assets are being acknowledged on a political scale. And to give or take, I mean, some might have a place in there that's been paid for, but honestly, all politics is pay to play. Let's just be real about it. So it is what it is. But I just think that's where I think that's what's happening. And it's all happening in the midst of the institutions really laying down the groundwork for what's next. And we don't know what's next because they're talking about it and working it out behind closed doors. And it's not really been announced yet. Just kind of the Cliff's notes of what's happening.
So on that note, I got to ask, because I know you've been very active in the Cardano community also, and me being I don't have, I'm not focused on any particular coin, and I know you're broad as well, but you, I feel like, have a deeper insight as to what's coming, what's going on there. You're a node operator as well, or a pool operator, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But what's coming? Because even with this post here, we don't need to go through the post, but there's been a lot of discussion from Charles Hoskinson, also the upgrade coming with Midnight, the BTC OS, Bitcoin OS, and integrations that are going to happen there. Where do you what's your estimation about what's going on with Cardano? What can people look forward to?
Well, when I was a kid, I was really big into like erector sets and Lincoln logs and basically all of these toys that allow you to build, right? So for me, the mindset of building something isn't anything new. And since I got into Cardano in 2017, I've basically been watching the future be built in front of my eyes. And that's what attracted me to it. Not only the fact that I believed all these things were being built, but by who they were being built by, right? And now we have this infrastructure that's basically laid out the groundwork for so many different use cases on a global scale. And I'm not talking about like meme coins and NFTs. That's all just fun, gimmicky stuff to draw attention and speculate while we're waiting for the big stuff. Some chains are only focused on one or the other, and that's their thing, and that's fine. But with Laos coming, which is basically going to improve on its throughput and its scalability in the midst of everything that is happening with Bitcoin OS and IOHK's own version that's going to basically like settle in ADA as opposed to Bitcoin OS, which is going to settle in whatever whatever token they're going to try and profit from. It's like, okay, we're going to basically have a door directly into the Bitcoin world, right? So trillions of dollars at the time, I'm sure, 1.5, 2 trillion, 5 trillion, whatever it becomes, all of that basically becomes liquidity for the Cardano ecosystem and its real world use cases in DeFi, metaverses, and so on. And there's so many different layers to this stuff that I don't think generally get acknowledged by, especially the haters who know Cardano is a major competitive chain to whatever it is they're holding. And so Laos is going to play a really significant role. And it's just, we keep adding more power to the chain that is improving on everything that is capable within its ecosystem. And honestly, I don't think especially this year, by the end of this year, mid this year, I just don't think there's going to be a chain that's going to be able to hold a candle to everything Cardano is going to bring. Midnight, that's another huge thing, a privacy layer for Bitcoin. Are you kidding me? A privacy layer for potentially XRP and all of the other partnerships that Cardano's established that nobody talks about because everybody's waiting for some of these key elements to really empower their use on whatever chains they're most interested in. But effectively, I think Cardano is going to become the backbone of the blockchain, regardless of what chain you love the most.
So, what is the reason, other than the bizarre tribalism out there in the space? Some people are vehemently, absolutely Cardano sucks,
Money.
or they absolutely love it. It doesn't seem like there's many people that are kind of one foot in the door, one foot out. Like, what? Where does that come from?
It comes from paid influencers that are promoting garbage and trash and lies because they're either being paid to, or they got into Solana or something like Solana early on and they're doing really well. Well, I mean, we'll see how that ends up now, but I mean, they've been doing really well. And I watch these Twitter posts all the time, like Marty Party or whatever his name is. And a lot of these guys, they are so invested in this ecosystem. They are literally saying anything they can to FUD Cardano. And the thing is that ecosystem has been built off the back of Cardano from the beginning through all of the paid advertisements and everything else that they did. You can't plug in Cardano in a search field and not see some sort of paid narrative article on some website that's basically trying to tell people that this is better than, and it's not just Solana, it's a lot in that ecosystem to it. It's a practice. And that's where the sentiment comes, and that's where the newcomers to the space are confused because they're reading this stuff, they're thinking it's legitimate, and so then they just adopt that because they don't know any better until the really educated ones, the really smart ones, dive in themselves and they realize it's the polar opposite of what they're being sold. And I think that is a part of what's happening right now. When I say the cream is rising to the top and people are washing their clothes, enough people have enough time in now that they're understanding what's happening and they're starting to make changes.
I completely agree with that. I think the tribalism in this space is just beyond me. That's why I did because I'm not necessarily, I don't have anything against, but I'm not a huge fan for my portfolio of stacking an XRP. Now I know people that are making great money on XRP, and I'm happy for them. It's just funny to see people. It's like they're either all in on something or not. It's like, you know what? I'm happy XRP got that win. It's good for the ecosystem. Same with Cardano, with some of the integrations they're doing. And one of those things before we wrap, because I know this is going to be a little bit of a shorter stream today, is these movements, tapping into the liquidity that, what was, but now it's about $1.6 trillion of liquidity on Bitcoin, the Bitcoin DeFi layer, and what can be possible there. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that really means for Cardano? What's really happening there?
What's happening with the DeFi layer of Cardano?
Yeah, they're working in Bitcoin, basically, because I know it's a UTXO model on Cardano, similar to
Well,
Bitcoin, whereas Ethereum's not. So there's some things that I know are being built
what do
out.
you think happens when $1.5 trillion worth of value is able to flow directly into Cardano based DeFi?
Yes.
What do you think happens to the TVL? Everybody wants to measure everything based on transactions per second and total value locked. But when it comes to Cardano, you're talking about a completely different animal altogether. TVL doesn't really mean shit on Cardano. Otherwise, we would count all of the value that's quote unquote locked, not locked, in the number of people staking their ADA for passive yield and generating pretty solid passive revenue from it. Right, but that's not counted because some of the top chains with the biggest TVL aren't capable of doing that. And this is old school metrics that are applying to new technologies that are far superior, and we need to catch up to that. Well, if we're going to play and remain in that old school metric system, well, Cardano's about to beat the pants off of literally everything when we've unlocked Bitcoin as an asset that's able to basically 40x the TVL of Cardano, probably likely overnight. And then the throughput and everything else is going to continue to get upgraded with Laos and everything else that's coming. So it's just kind of a just calm down, relax. You'll see. And that's basically what I try to tell everybody. It's all being built, but you can't build greatness overnight. It takes time to actually build something useful to the world.
And that's one of the things I've appreciated about Charles Hoskinson's sort of leadership of the Cardano community, in that they're not so focused on what can we do to pump the price today. They're also doing things that are 15, 20, 40 years out in the making, working into building an infrastructure in areas that never really had that first world technology boom, and now they're just starting. Like Africa, for instance, is the fastest growing economy in the world because it's coming from such a small place. But now they're basically getting this new infrastructure that's going to be blockchain, and in a lot of ways, because he's building into that, they're going to start with having Cardano integrated into their government systems and what they're doing within their economy. So very smart, I think, long-term play there. And I think it's a great, we're learning that now in the space. A lot of people are firsthand. You can't just look for the shiny new thing. We've seen so many people get wrecked in the meme coin space, even with different altcoins that are supposed to be mid chip or blue chip, where we've had 2 round trip cycles in the altcoin market from the beginning of last year till now. And then you see other coins that are not so worried about it, and they're building into long-term legacy, sustainable sort of development plays like government infrastructure in areas of the world that are growing.
Well, build fast and break things. It only takes you so far, and that's really dependent on your budget and how far along your competitors are. That's all I can really say. A decentralized chain isn't going to have the same kind of budget that a centralized chain is going to have to create its own narrative. So Cardano's paving its own way, and it's doing everything the right way. And it doesn't matter that it's not happening overnight. It works, and everything that it launches works. Its transitions from upgrade to upgrade work. Everything works. That's more important for the long-term benefit of the holders and those of us a part of the ecosystem than this, build fast, break things mentality. We'll just let money basically create the narrative. That's only going to go so long.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And my heels are dug in. I'm all in this in this crypto ecosystem, and I'm honored to be able to have people, talk with other people like you that have been out there in the space, building their own projects as well as sharing unbiased narratives, actually looking into data to share it out. So Jason, I appreciate you coming on. We're gonna be wrapping it here. Do you have anything coming up or other places other than your YouTube and Twitter that people can find you at?
I'm supposed to be going doing something here soon with Crypto Princess. I've been knocking her around for weeks now because of my video situation. So I don't know if we'll probably do that tomorrow. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Jerome Powell, man. I think that's coming up. It's supposed to start in like 5 minutes, I think. So I'm going to check that out and see what's happening with interest rates and whether or not we're going to get a pump or dump.
Well, I think the decision comes out at 2, and then the press conference is at 2:30, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I do think
I
the press
looked it up
conference is
earlier
2:30.
this morning and it said 12 unless they pushed it.
Oh, well, maybe it's changed. And then I do believe, I don't know if I got the confirmation. Are you coming on Discover tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm happy to come on anytime you guys want.
Yeah, I'll hit you on Telegram. We'll sort that out. But everybody,
Okay.
make sure you go give this OG a follow over on YouTube here at Crypto Crow Official, and then also on his X profile right here at Jason Appleton. Wonderful guy, always sharing, knowledgeable thoughts. And it's not just crypto. I like it when people out there like Jason actually share a bit of themselves, share their opinions on life and what's going on. Inspiring guys. So it's an honor to have you on, Jason. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, man.
Adios, everybody. Have a wonderful day. We're going to send you over to Blockchain Basement now. Have a wonderful day. And remember, it's going to be volatile today. Don't be jumping in and out just because you're seeing a candle move on a 5-minute chart, because we're going to see a lot of movement today. So with that being said, we'll send you over to Blockchain Basement. Love you. Adios, and we'll see you later. Adios.